Starting now. Starting now.
Hello, everybody. This is Tyler Durham with Microsoft. Welcome to the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences SharePoint Week. This is the first event in this week-long sessions here. So today we're going to be talking about driving engagement and communications with the modern intranet. Will be presented by Dan Holme and Brad McCabe from the product group, and I've got assistance with broadcasting from my friend Michael Gannotti. This is brought to you by the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences Group. Please visit us at aka.ms/HLSblog. That's aka.ms/HLSblog for all sorts of great content for the modern experiences in Office 365 as it pertains to healthcare. Before we start, a little bit of housekeeping. We encourage our attendees to ask questions, so ask away, and I'll tee them up for the moderators. All questions are moderated. They will not show to the general audience unless the moderator publishes question out to the QA panel for everybody to see. We'd love to know who you are and where you're viewing from. Please send a shout out in the Q&A panel anytime, your first name, what state, country you're viewing from. At the conclusion of this session, we'll be posted to Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences blog at aka.ms/HLSblog. That's aka.ms/HLSblog, along with all the other resources mentioned in the webcast. Now, we'll talk a little bit about how to engage the Q&A panel. So what we're looking here is a screenshot. If you look up in the top right-hand corner, you should see a couple of word balloons with a question mark. If you click on that, that will open up the Q&A panel. And this is where you can ask your questions, and we'll tee those up and get those ready for you as soon as possible. Now, on to the presentation.
Dan, you're up.
Good morning, everybody. Are you seeing my desktop?
We are not yet.
Let me reshare. I think you may. There we go. I think you may have live.
There we go.
All righty. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan Holme. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for SharePoint, Yammer, and Microsoft Stream, and I'm joined today by Brad McCabe, also on my team. And together we are thrilled to bring to you the tools and capabilities in Microsoft 365 that allow you to drive engagement and communications with the modern internet. We've got a ton to share today about how you can power teamwork and connect the workplace with an intelligent intranet in Microsoft 365. We're going to be covering everything from using the intranet to drive employee communications through features like news, to creating compelling experiences for employees, and creating landing pages for your division, department, or organization. So we got a ton to cover. Please do participate and ask questions. We'll take a few of them in real time, but we also have a significant chunk of time reserved for Q&A at the end of the presentation. So today we're talking about the intelligent intranet, and we believe that this is really the key to helping an organization drive employee engagement and communications in the modern workplace. Intranets have been around for a long time, but for many of us, intranets are perceived to be static, perhaps containing outdated or even irrelevant content, very difficult to post new content to, and not personalized, not providing the information that's really important for me as an individual to do my work within the context of my teams and my organizations. The capabilities we're going to share with you today allow us to take the intranet on a significant step forward to being an intelligent intranet that both powers teamwork and connects the modern workplace. We believe that the modern intranet needs to support the entire spectrum of teamwork, from file sharing and collaboration to shared content and solutions that are available for any group, to engaging employees and communicating across teams, across silos, across the organization, and for connecting the workplace so that people can share knowledge, find answers, and that the organization can capture its corporate knowledge, reuse it more quickly, and manage content to drive faster decision-making and action. All of this needs to happen while ensuring the organization can maintain appropriate levels of control, protecting and managing sensitive information, and building custom solutions that solve real business problems by extending and developing the platform. And for us at Microsoft, extending and developing is not just something that's reserved for developers themselves. It's something that any end user can do with capabilities that we'll talk to you about today. For almost 25 years, SharePoint has been powering modern intranets, and many organizations have built award-winning intranets on top of SharePoint. Today in Microsoft 365, SharePoint is at the center of our discussion for modern intranets, but is joined by other services from across Office 365 to create compelling experiences. So while SharePoint provides the web technologies, the sites, it also provides the ability to use those sites to share content, files, news, lists, pages, apps, and even mixed reality spaces, and to use those building blocks to create the employee experiences that drive the four scenarios at the top of the diagram. And all of the content and all of the activities that you are engaging with on an intelligent intranet benefit from integration with Microsoft 365, delivering world-class security, AI to augment human capability and creativity, search so you can find what you need across the organization, automation so you can streamline business processes, and that extensibility for both citizen developers, what we like to call solutionists, as well as corporate developers. So that integration with Microsoft 365 really gives us that core platform that supports organizational governance. So we're going to spend today diving into these capabilities and looking at the innovations that we've delivered for SharePoint in the last 3 years. Almost 3 years ago, we delivered an event called The Future of SharePoint, where we took SharePoint on a step function forward in how it can deliver teamwork and a connected workplace. Since then, we've delivered hundreds and hundreds of features that allow us to create pages with compelling web parts, use those pages to communicate news, build effective sites to share information with a broad audience across the organization and organize those sites in hubs, and really build a modern portal system for creating effective landing pages for your division, department, or organization. Finally, we've made all of these capabilities available to you with the SharePoint mobile application. So everything we see today looks great on a mobile device across iOS and Android, as well as, of course, across browsers on desktop and PC. So as we go through those innovations, we're going to look at them in 4 buckets. We're going to look at SharePoint News, which allows you to keep people informed and engaged with news. Communication sites that allow you to create beautiful websites to share news and information, resources and services across the organization. Hub sites that allow you to connect and organize sites to create a set of relationships and taxonomy in your organization. And finally, intranet landing pages. So we'll go into each of those 4 buckets, and I'm lucky enough to start the day off with our dive into SharePoint News. So every organization, every department, every division, in fact, every team is more effective when people know what's up, when they're informed and up to date. And for many, many years, organizations have turned to email to keep people up to date. And email is a fine way to communicate with people, to broadcast information, but it isn't as rich as modern web technologies allow. You can't embed videos, for example. You can't embed live views of data very easily in an email message. It also is difficult to engage, especially on a larger scale in email. In fact, most organizations have blocked the reply all capability. SharePoint News brings a new way to communicate across the organization and to keep people in the know with important relevant news, regardless of what device they're on. SharePoint News uses web pages to create compelling communications that can integrate multimedia, including video, audio, even mixed reality, and of course, images from Office 365 and beyond, and then scales that with automatic distribution and promotion to your audience, which is a fancy way of saying, once you've created a news article, that article will get to the right people wherever they are. And those people can engage with the article so that as a communicator, you can see who's liked, who's viewed, who's commented on your article. And your article can amplify through your audience because they can reshare it socially. That allows anyone to be a communicator, to create pages, to drive engagement. And at the organizational level, we've introduced a number of features that we call organizational news that allow you to really get into the weeds with scheduling, targeting news to specific audiences, publishing news with approvals, and distributing and measuring the impact of your news. So that's what SharePoint News is at a high level. Let's actually take a look at it in real time by diving into a demo. So I'm going to switch over here into my demo environment, and we're going to start with a really simple example. I'm going to create a news article that for a new team member who's joined our organization. And actually to do this, I'm going to pull up a Word document that I have used to start drafting the article and working on it with some colleagues. So I'm going to pull up this article that welcomes Naomi to our team. Get that open in Word. So I've done a little bit of drafting already. And of course, as I mentioned, one way to distribute this news would be with email, but let's see just how much richer that is with SharePoint News. So SharePoint News can be created from any SharePoint site or from the SharePoint home or your mobile application. It's as simple as choosing New News Post. Now, of course, you have the ability to create news in sites that you own, that you're a member of. If this was an organizational news site, there might be a smaller number of people who have the rights to do this. So this is all manageable. I'm going to go ahead and create news, and I'm going to say, welcome, Naomi Moneypenny. And all I have to do is fill in the blanks to start creating news. And you'll notice this page has several parts. Right now, I'm in a part at the top of the page that has a couple of items that appear as I hover over it, including the ability to change the image. So all I have to do to start making the article more interesting is look for these, what we call controls, these buttons here that appear when I hover. So I'm going to go ahead and change the image. And I have the ability to look at images I've used recently. I can search the web for images. I also can pull images from my organization, which might have a store of approved and licensed stock images, or our company logos, for example. Finally, I can pull logos from my OneDrive, for example, or I can upload from my desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and upload an article, a image from my desktop, which seems to have vanished here. So I apologize. Give me one quick sec. So we'll go ahead and pull it down from my OneDrive. I apologize. Here's the article I want to use. Go ahead and download that. Sorry about that. So now I'm going to go ahead and upload from my desktop. There we go. And add that to my article. Now, I also want to add some text. So I'm going to go ahead and click the plus. And this plus is how I can add content from across Office 365 and beyond to my article. So I can choose to add a web part, for example, text, and then I can begin to type and use rich formatting controls. Now, this is where one of our features comes in that I find super handy, which is the ability to simply copy and paste from Word. So I already have this text that I've been drafting in Word. I can go ahead and just paste that in, and you'll notice it keeps the formatting, the bullets, for example, and I can simply add additional formatting where I want to make it look even more special. So I can go ahead and add that content and continue to build my article. Now, this might be enough of an article, an image and some text, but I also might want to help people understand more about how Naomi fits in with the organization. So I'm going to add one more web part, which is what we call our people web part. And the people web part allows me to bring information about people right into a news article. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to point out who Naomi's onboarding team is. These are Naomi's mentors and onboarding buddies as she joins the organization. So I'm going to go ahead and tag Megan and Adam. Oops, let me put in Miriam, actually. I'm going to put in Megan and Miriam into that people web part. And when I'm all done, I can finish by posting the news. So in just a few clicks, I've created a rich article that will now allow me to let people know that Naomi has joined the team. Now, you'll notice on the team site homepage, we're seeing that article already showing up here in the news web part at the top of the homepage. Now, this was just a quick example of a simple article, but we can get much more sophisticated with news in Microsoft 365 to create compelling stories using these web pages. Again, starting with just creating a news page. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump to an article that's already finished so we can see a particularly rich example of an article. Here we've got text and an image at the top, but we also have a section with a background that pulls out a key message for an upcoming safety program. We're bringing in information with text, but we're also bringing in links to important resources related to this new safety program. We've got a list of experts that we can refer to using that people web part. And notice when I hover over that people web part, I can see much more about Miriam, including contact information, who she reports to, even her LinkedIn profile if our organization has enabled that. All of this rich profile information is coming from Microsoft 365 and allows me to dig in and learn more about this content, in this case, about this expert, right in the context of my news article, something that isn't possible with traditional email updates. I've also embedded a stream video, some data, and an image gallery. And then at the bottom of the article, you'll see people have already started engaging with this article. We've got some comments that are appearing on the article. We've got a couple of people who've liked it, and I can see that 94 people have actually viewed this article. So this article illustrates how rich a communication that SharePoint News can actually support. Now, in addition, this article allows me to manage who this article gets to in my organization. So let's take a look at how that's done by digging into the page details. The page details allow me to modify the thumbnail and description of the page, which shows up in certain places where the page rolls up. And it also allows me to configure properties of this page, what you might call metadata. And these properties can be completely customized to the needs of your specific use case, your workflow, your division, the way your organization communicates. In our case, we've put 3 properties that indicate whether the article is featured, and I can toggle that to yes or no, what category the article falls into, the month that article should be published, and then the audience it goes to is a new capability in SharePoint called Modern Audience Targeting. And what this allows me to do is target this article to a specific group in my organization. So for example, I can choose to target it to our product marketing team called Product Launch Event. And when I do that, then those properties can be used to ensure that this article shows up to those people in the right way. So I'm going to go ahead and in this case, I'm going to cancel out of this and go back to our homepage to see how this article is appearing. So once you've created a page and configured its properties, that article will appear in several places throughout SharePoint. First, it will appear on the homepage of the site where the news was created. So here, for example, we're seeing that article we just published about Naomi, and we're seeing that quadcopter safety program article. These 2 parts of the page that you're seeing are created with what's called news web parts. So just like we had a web part on a page where we could put text or an image or a video, we have parts on this page that are exposing news. One of the web parts is showing news as a carousel that I can go through and see what news my organization wants to feature. And in this particular web part, we're filtering only to show featured news, those articles that have that featured property set to yes. Over here, we're seeing a slightly different set of news in a different layout. Each news web part can be configured with the layout and the filtering that you want to create the perfect news experience. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit on this page, on the home page of the site, and we'll dig into those news web parts and see the details behind what I was just explaining. So if I click edit web part on this first news web part, we'll see that this news is coming from this site. We have a series of layouts that we can pick. I've chosen carousel with 5 items. I can choose to automatically cycle through the news items if we want. And then going down here further, we've got properties to filter the news by. For example, I'm filtering by featured equals yes. And if I turned audience targeting on, that would further filter the news to show me the news that's relevant to me based on the groups I belong to, and you would see the news that's relevant to you. So that's where we turn on that audience targeting that then uses the filter that I showed you on the page itself. Last but not least, right now, the news is being brought automatically to this page in the order that's most relevant to the viewer using AI in Microsoft 365. But if I'm a communicator and I want to truly curate the news that people are seeing, I want them to see specific articles in specific places, I can go ahead and go in to select specific articles to show up in specific places. So for example, I might want to put our article about Alicia Guerrero in a specific place. So I can go ahead and drop that into the news order. When I'm all done, close this panel. And now Alicia is showing up in that first place. So we've seen here how you can create a news article with specific, with exactly the information you need to create a rich communication. We've seen that each news article has properties, including metadata and audience targeting, and that those properties can then be used to create a curated news experience using news web parts with the layouts and the filtering that you want to drive your news story. Now, this is a great way to create a curated news experience on a site, but in addition, news rolls up to several other important places across Microsoft 365. First, it rolls up to the SharePoint home. The SharePoint home is what you get to when you click SharePoint in the sweep bar or in the waffle menu. When you click SharePoint, you get to SharePoint home, and here I see a personalized feed of news coming from across my sites and my teams that is relevant to me. It's driven by an understanding of who I am, my roles, the sites I follow, the audiences I belong to, and the news that people around me are finding interesting. So I have a personalized, relevant feed of news right here on SharePoint Home. And from here, I can go in and read those articles, or I can even save them for later if I want to make sure to come back and look at that article again later. And you'll see there's a section of saved news down here on the left. Now, in addition, SharePoint News appears on the SharePoint mobile application. So right now, we are looking at the SharePoint mobile application. Let me put this in the center of my screen here. And you'll see the first tab on the bottom left is the News tab. And I can then see all of the news coming from my organization and my teams, including that news article about Naomi. And when I click that news article, we'll see it renders beautifully on my mobile application. So it renders responsively. I see all the formatting. I see that people web part that we were talking about before. And at the bottom, I have got the ability to like the article or to comment on it. And I can comment on this article, for example, saying, "Great to see you are mentoring Naomi." And I can even @mention someone like Miriam, @mention Miriam, and she will actually get a notification that she's been mentioned in this particular comment, and she can come to the article and read that comment. Additionally, at the top of the screen, you'll notice a bookmark. I can save this article for later here as well. And in the mobile application, when you save an article for later, you can get to it from the Me tab on the bottom right corner of the window. So in the bottom right corner, I can touch Me. And then I can go to Saved, which shows me the articles I've saved for later. Now, personally, I find the SharePoint mobile application is a great way to keep up with news in my organization. When I'm sitting at my desk, I'm usually working, I'm deep in the task I'm trying to perform. But when I'm standing in line, waiting for lunch, when I'm on the bus, when I've got a few moments of quiet, that's when I open up my SharePoint mobile app and use the mobile application to catch up with the news that's coming from across my organization. Now, one last tip I'll give you on news, and that is news isn't just pages you create on any site. News can also be links to external resources. So very much like you share things on social media like Facebook, you can add a news link to any article anywhere on the internet, and it will be incorporated into the news feed. For example, we see this article about Satya Nadella here. This is showing up as first-class news in SharePoint, but in fact, this article is coming from outside of our environment from ZDNet. So news links allow you to bring news from outside the organization and distribute it inside your organization. So hopefully that gives you a feeling for the capabilities of SharePoint News in Microsoft 365. Again, it's about easily creating pages that can be as simple as text and an image, or can be as rich as a page that includes video and live feeds about data and people in the organization, and getting that information to the right people across apps and devices. Brad?
Thanks, Dan. So let me just go ahead and take over here from you real quick. So go ahead, we'll flip to my desktop. So Dan showed you a lot of great things there with news, but how do we get that news out to everyone so that they're aware, they can engage with it? This is where SharePoint communication sites really come into play for you. They give you a very rich web-based canvas to share not only all the different news and different news items and information you'll create, but resources, vision, knowledge across the organization. They're incredibly powerful because you can integrate content not only from Office 365, but you can go beyond that with interactive web parts and applications. And I'll show you how simple they are to create so that anyone can create a beautiful, compelling website or just a web page. And as Dan showed you, they're natively mobile, they're responsive, so they look great across any browser that you're using on any device that you're using it for when you're working out there. So let me go ahead and dive right in to the demo here and show you how easy it is to work with these. So if we start here on the SharePoint home site that Dan was just showing you, since I'm an administrator here and I have permissions and you can control all of this inside the organization, I have this Create Site button. And if I simply click this, I can choose what type of site I want. I want to share a lot of this information broadly, so we're going to create a communication site. And I can give it any name that I want. You'll see it'll take that name, it'll automatically create the URL, make sure that that is there for me. I can give it a description here, whatever I want, but this is also tied in with all of the security that we have built into Microsoft 365. So if I need to classify this, and you can control all these different tags. So in this particular demo company we've created, these are the tags. But inside your organization, you can create your own classifications to use as you need to. We'll go ahead and we'll make this English. And you can see here, I can choose a template. And you'll notice I've got some standard templates, but you can also then create custom templates. So our fictitious Contoso company here, in this demo, we created a template for a regional sales event. So if this happened to be one of those, I could choose that. So you can have central organizations creating templates so that you create a consistent look and feel no matter who's creating these sites. We'll just go ahead, we'll do a basic topic, and I will say finish. And you'll see here, it just takes just a few seconds to create this site and load it with all of the framework content that I need. So here you can see I've got this rich site ready for me to go. I can simply click the edit button and I get the very similar edit experience to what Dan was just showing you here in the news. So if I wanted to say add some text here right in between, maybe we'll go ahead and we'll center this text and we'll say, we'll put some text in there. Now, if I want to take, as I'm doing that, and I want to maybe move it around, if I want to change the font, turn it into a hyperlink, all that is right there for me to do very, very easily. You can also see I can change the layout of this section. So if I have one column, if I wanted to go to multiple columns, I could do that. If I wanted to give this whole section a different background color to highlight it, simply one click away, and I'm able to do all of that right from here. Now, if I want, I can continue to build on these, and I can build a lot of really rich sites here. But I can also take and build out some things with some templates that we've got out there for you. So I'll share this URL out with you here, but we have an entire lookbook out there of different site designs that you can go create. So you can see some of them here as we scroll down, some of the different looks, the different feels that you can pull right in. Now, it's really easy to bring these into your sites here as you want to. You can see here, this is another site here where you can actually go out and you can choose one of these different looks and feels, and you can choose then, say this happens to be the template you want, you can go ahead and add this right into your site. So very easy, not just to use those templates right from inside, but also to pull in a lot of other great designs that get published out there for you. Now, I do want to show you some of these different sites that you can build with communication sites in action. The first one I'll start with right here. This is the new site that Dan was just showing you. But if we scroll down the page, you can see that coming in here, simply editing, we've brought in some other web parts here that we can take and we can work with. So you'll see we've got some different views of news, in this case, some organizational updates that are being pulled in, different view here, just slightly different layout to show you that, but we've also made this page more interactive. So you can see here we've pulled in our Contoso corporate Twitter feed to bring that news in. We've surfaced up company events right here with that information. All of these are out-of-the-box web parts that you can pull in. You can see here as well, we have a countdown timer to our product that has now launched, as well as rich multimedia. In this case, we're pulling in different videos that are relevant to this news page right from Microsoft Stream right here into the page. Now, another great type of page to build isn't just about news. Sometimes it's about readiness around the company. Maybe you're launching a new product, right? Maybe you're doing a new series of R&D into a new product, and you want to share a lot of information about that. Here you can see we've taken a different way when we've come in and we've edited this page. You'll see we've still got that rich interactive graphic at the top to kind of capture people's attention. In this case, to pull them into a handbook that we want them to read and learn more about. Since this is a readiness site, we're trying to get that content up and available to them. But it's not just about reading content. When I'm trying to get up to speed on something, when I'm trying to learn, it's about being able to engage and interact. And here on the left side, you see we've actually pulled in the Yammer web part. And so you can see right here, we have a retail readiness group out on Yammer, but rather than having to send people out to Yammer, they're simply able to interact with their peers and have that discussion right here inside the page. So whether it's finding that content or interacting, it's there. Now, sometimes you just need to go find an expert and set up some time, talk, meet, discuss things with that expert. You can see here another view of the people card that Dan was showing you. In this case, we've brought that people card and we've populated it with the experts on our particular product here. So it's very easy to find out who I should go work with and how to engage with them. The other thing you'll notice is we're pulling up trending resources. So we can actually use a lot of the AI in Microsoft 365 to intelligently surface relevant content at the correct place and on the correct site. So here, as people around the company are working on different pieces of content, it's available for me. And you can see as I continue down the page, a lot of other rich interactive items here for me to use. Now, sometimes I want to build out sites to take and help my leadership engage. Now, this is a site for our fictitious corporation Contoso here in this demo. But this is actually modeled after a real site that we have ourselves here inside of Microsoft that we also call Executive Corner. And for us at Microsoft, just like our demo company here, the Executive Corner is a place where Satya and their leadership team can engage with the company. So you see we've got some targeted, very rich, interactive news laid out. Once again, same news that Dan was showing you how to build, just laying it out differently with the different styles of those web parts. But you see here, we also bring up different news and posts. At the Contoso Corporation, Patty Fernandez is the CEO in the organization. And you can see these are different posts that Patty wants to share, news articles she's created. So we've got this rich site. Really, I can engage and understand what the leadership team wants me to know, but I can also interact with the leadership team. So using that Yammer web part we saw in readiness, but using it in a different format here, where I can actually post as a Contoso employee questions to Patty. Patty or her leadership team could go ahead and answer those questions for me, or others in the company could chime in, right? So we can have a rich dialogue. You know, Dan talked about the challenges of kind of discussing broadly across the organization with email. And the reason why a lot of times people send those messages out and disable the reply all button. In this particular case, we can have that dialogue right here on the site about information that's important to the company at a senior level. But you can see also in the layout as we've built out this site, we've got recent communications, all with right out of the box web parts, as well as different keynotes our executives have done. A little bit different take on the Yammer web part here. You can see we're using it to highlight. Everything I'm showing you on these pages are different ways you can put the out-of-box components together to solve different scenarios and business challenges that you might have. Now, if I scroll down this page a little bit more, you'll notice I have a monthly Q&A here. Inside the Contoso Corporation, very similar to what we do inside of Microsoft, we actually have a Q&A every month with Satya and his leadership team. They go different places all around campus, different buildings on campus, different locations around the globe, and actually host these Q&As. But what's great is the people in the audience who are in that building can come and attend, but I remotely can also attend. And so in this case, you know, we've got a video here from a prior Q&A that happens to be running. But what's great is I can see last month's Q&A here, but I can also see if this happened to be a live stream, this would be where the live event would be. And the great thing about using all these web parts out of the box is I get a lot of rich features. So you can see with one click, I can turn on closed captioning. So I have all of that accessibility built right in. But if I don't need accessibility, for example, if I don't have a hearing disability, but maybe I'm someplace that's really noisy, or maybe I'm at the airport waiting for a flight, I can still engage with this content right there. Because it's coming from Stream, all of the intelligence is there. So if I want to say, look up a particular item that maybe Patty talked about, you can see I can type it in, I'll find that text, and I can jump right to that point in the video. So these live Q&As are some really interesting things that you can put right onto your pages to really help people engage. And I'm going to toss back to Dan to show you a little bit more about some other things that you can do with some of these live events and Q&As. Dan?
Awesome, thanks, Brad. So the scenario that Brad was talking to you about is our new live event capability in Microsoft 365, which is available to you now in preview. And it allows anyone to host a live or on-demand event in Microsoft 365 and to reach your audience wherever they might live. Brad was just showing you a live event surfacing inside of SharePoint, for example. I'm going to show you the same, the same capability surfacing inside of Yammer. And it doesn't look like my desktop is streaming out yet. So let me try one more time. There we go. What we're seeing now is the Yammer group for our leadership engagement. This is in fact the exact same Yammer group that you are seeing in a SharePoint page. For organizations that don't want to build a SharePoint site for their leadership, you still can take advantage of Yammer's capability to bring people together into an open forum where they can ask questions, get answers, share knowledge and best practices, in this case, with leaders. So this is that exact same group. We see the same posts that were surfacing on the site. And here inside the Yammer group, we can also see that live event capability. So on the right rail, in the right navigation, I can actually see links to recent meetings, including our product strategy update just before the holidays. And when I jump into that event, I can see how the live event experience looks inside of Yammer. We see a video at the top, and then we see an open conversation below. And the open conversation is where people can come before the meeting to ask questions, to express what's on their mind, during the meeting to engage with each other and chat and ask questions of presenters, and after the meeting to keep the conversation going. There's the video at the top, powered by Microsoft Stream, but integrated directly into this experience. Brad showed you this, and it's the exact same type of experience Brad showed you, where I can review the video, I can turn on and off closed captions, and I can do that incredible search within video, where if I'm looking for a moment that matters to me because I'm responsible for camera products within our organization, I can jump into exactly where that product was discussed. So this live event capability in Microsoft 365, again, is available in preview today for all of you. It will be coming to general availability in just a couple of weeks here. And as long as you're an admin of a Yammer group, you will see the Create Live Event link that will allow you to begin scheduling your live event. And in fact, what we're looking at today is a live event. You're watching a live event surfacing inside of Microsoft Teams, which is the third place that you can experience those live meetings. So that's a quick overview of live events. Brad, I'll toss it back to you.
Thanks, Dan. So go ahead and share my desktop back here. Great. So we looked at a couple of these sites built with different components right out of the box. I did want to take a look at a few sites here, and I'm going to go ahead and do these on slides so I can kind of call a couple of sections out to you a little bit easier here. The first one I want to talk about is a microsite, and so we'll go ahead and we'll dive into this particular site here. Now, this site is about marketing some training that we want people to take and we want them to do. Now, you can see this is going to be a live event here that we're going to bring people in. So what we've done, we've created a new site here. You can see we've gone ahead and we've laid out some hero images and graphics at the top. But you'll also notice here on the right-hand side, we're using that same quick links web part that we saw in some of the other sites we were taking a look at. But here we're going ahead and we're using it to give you the place to reserve your seat or view the agenda. So we're making it very action oriented for folks. If we scroll down the page, you can see here what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've used that people card, but we've taken that out of the box web part. We've just given it a different view from that edit design surface. And in this case, we're using it to showcase our speakers who will be talking and showing off content at our event. Farther down the page, you can see we've brought in some really bold images and text here to really get people to understand the different days and the agendas, to kind of get them to click and draw them in to that. And at the bottom of the page, we've gone ahead and used two other web parts. You can see we've taken the out-of-box events control to lay out here some information. One thing I love about that control is straight out of the box, I can go ahead and I've got the functionality to allow people to add that right to their calendar. So very convenient for them. I've also taken, when we built this out and we used the Big Maps web part. So right here, I have a fully interactive map that they can use. They can zoom, pan, get directions, etc. from. So that's a great way to build out a microsite, in this case, a event registration page. And you can see on the right-hand side as well what it would look like if I was scrolling up and down inside of my phone. Now, another way to do those microsites, in this particular case, it's really about sharing out some content from a shared service. You think of these shared services in a lot of different ways. I spend a lot of time creating slides and such. Inside of Microsoft, we have a large branding organization, and I'm sure many of you listening have a similar type of organization where they create templates of fonts and color palettes and all of the designs that we need to use. Well, if I want to publish a lot of that information, a microsite is great for me to do that. So if we take a look at this here, you can see we used the basic text part that I added at the very beginning of the demo, but we spent a little more time kind of laying it out to sort of introduce who we are here at Contoso. Then we use some of the other components as we come down, like the hero and the news components, to really draw people into our brand guidance, or to understand why we create that. It's not about just being the brand police, but here's some articles about why it's really important so that people can understand that. Again, we kind of have repositioned how we use the quick links. Here we're getting them out to all those different assets that we're creating that they might want to use. We're using the images to really draw them into some of the important guidelines and photos that we want, as well as using a lot of that text and imagery to really help dig and dive into some of the approaches and principles that we have. So you can see here, we've kind of taken a tour through a lot of different communication sites out there. So you can see it's really easy for me to use a lot of those web parts right out of the box. I can also have third-party web parts that I could pull in from ISVs and partners who are creating them, as well as having developers inside the organization creating their own web parts for me to use. Here's the link that we talked about if you want to pull in some of these different designs that we were looking at from that lookbook. It's out there at aka.ms WAC SharePoint lookbook. So I encourage you to go out, take a look at that, and start experimenting on your own. Now, to kind of continue to build on that, I'll hand it back to Dan.
Awesome, Brad. Thank you so much. So we've seen a number of different examples of great sites that you can build to share knowledge, vision, information, resources, and services with a broad audience across your organization. How do you make sense of those sites? How do you create a structure or a set of relationships between them? The next type of site we're going to look at is a type of site called a hub site that allows you to create associations with other sites in your organization. I think hub sites are easiest to understand by looking at an example. So in this particular case, what we're looking at is what you might think of as our main HR site. This is our Work at Contoso site. And so here on this site, this is simply a communication site. It has some of the same things we've been seeing elsewhere already today. We have some news coming in. We've got some events. We're showing some key financial metrics and KPIs. And we also have links to important resources elsewhere in the organization. One of the things that's on this site that we haven't seen yet is on the right side of the page right now, which is actually a Power App that allows me as an employee of Contoso to actually go in and look at my vacation time and to create a request for time off. So we've used the Power App web part to actually embed a Power App right here on the page. We've got more links to resources and events and information about our HR team. So we've got all of this information on a communication site. But what makes this site special is that it's been created as a hub site. So what the hub site does is it allows people to join other sites to this site. You'll notice at the top we have the navigation for the hub site. For example, this hub site, this Work at Contoso site, links to the site we have for our giving campaign. So this is the site that we've created to drive people to get engaged with their communities and to donate to important causes. And you'll notice the giving campaign has the same general look and feel of the work site. It's got an accent color that is sort of a bluish purple. It's got the same navigation at the top. So I can get from the giving campaign back to the hub site, the work site, using this hub navigation. And the same goes for all of the other sites here. So we've got other sites for benefits, for example, for news, and our new employee orientation site. So if you are the administrator of a site, you've got the ability to join the site to the hub, assuming that the hub owner lets you join the site. And that then lets you create these associations and relationships. The result, again, is shared navigation, shared look and feel, but additionally, shared search experiences. When I search on the hub, for example, clicking in the search box, I'm actually seeing by default, not just information from this site, but from all of the associated sites, including the benefits planning site, for example. I'm seeing news from across the sites. I also am seeing a roll-up of news here on the homepage. This news is not just coming from this site, it's coming from associated sites like Ask HR and benefits planning. Events also roll up from across sites. So we're seeing events that come from a variety of the sites associated to this particular site. So when you join a site to a hub site, your sites get superpowers. They get shared look and feel, shared navigation, shared search, and roll up of information from all associated sites. And one of the advantages of the new hub sites model is that it can change as your organization changes. If tomorrow our giving campaign needs to be a part of a different part of the organization, anyone who's an administrator of this site can simply remove it from its current hub and add it to its new hub. So you're no longer stuck with the structure that you create the first day on your site. So that's what hub sites are about. I'll give you a quick visual overview here, and this will be in the slides for you. Again, they allow you to associate related sites, provide a hub for users that rolls up navigation, news, and search. And it also creates consistency across the sites with the shared navigation, the shared theme. And for IT professionals, there's all kinds of governance wrapped into this as well, where you can create workflows, including approvals to manage what happens when a site tries to join a hub. And you can even create sites from the hub that automatically inherit the look, the feel, and the navigation. So with that then, let's turn our attention to landing pages and portals. And I'll set this up and then Brad will actually show you some examples here. Organizations and departments and divisions have long striven and invested lots of time and money to create great experiences that connect their workplace, to create experiences that bring together search, content, news, personalized, relevant information, video, and conversation into one place so that people can get to work quickly on their projects, whether they're individual projects, team projects, or organizational projects. We want those experiences to be dynamic, to be personalized, and to be actionable. And most of all, we want them to be engaging, to be sites that people want to come to, because that's where they'll find valuable content. That's where they can connect with their peers in the organization. And that's where they can find rich, engaging content such as video. So organizations have striven to do this for a long time, and often these projects have required lots of time and money. With the same components that we've showed you so far today, communication sites, pages, and web parts, you can now build beautiful portals without these out-of-box capabilities, including the examples that Brad's going to show you.
Thanks so much, Dan. Let me go ahead and pop my screen up here real quick for folks. Great. So here we are back sort of at our new site here. And you can see how I want to show you how easy it is to really come in and build some of these great experiences. So you can see here as I come in and I want to start editing this and laying it out, It's very easy for me to move things. Very easy, as Dan showed you, to turn on things like audience targeting if I wanted to, or change the layout of some of these. But you'll see that this design experience really moves through a lot of these different looks, and a lot of these different web parts down through here. So, if I wanted to come in and change around the company events or choose where we pull the events from, very similar to working with news to create those experiences. Or, if I wanted to come in here and say, change our timer and say, hey, our new product, that's going to launch here on May 1st. Very simple. I go in, I simply make that change, and now it's out there for me. And I could choose to count up to it. I could count down to it. I could choose where my call to action is. So, hey, here's my launch, right? This is my portal. I want people coming out here regularly and working with this. And so, I'm going to make it engaging. I'm also going to take them off and give them something to do, something to work for out here. Now, you can do a lot of very rich things as you kind of build these out through here. And we've looked a lot about building some of these different web parts and changing them. But I can control a lot of the look and the feel as well. So here I am, if I'm building this out for my landing page or my portal, I could choose how I want to lay it out. I could choose what company logo I want up here. I could choose to adjust my background. If I wanted to as well, I could choose to change the theme on this. So you'll see the current theme that we have selected. You'll see some out-of-the-box themes, but you'll also see themes that the company has built color-wise here that I could choose to apply with just one click right here to this particular page. Now, what's great is this is all automatically accessible. So we'll think about things like color contrast and the color palettes for you to help make sure that we take care of that. We saw being able to add the custom header. I can also bring my custom footer in and choose how I want to do that, how I want that footer to be laid out as well. But one of the great things is I can choose my navigation. So I can have a traditional cascading menu, or if I want it, especially if this is a hub site, for example, I could choose to bring in our mega menu here to the page as well, right? So if I've gone ahead and I've set that, you'll see that when I kind of come back here and I refresh this page here, you'll see I can have that mega menu on our site. And I can do lots of different layouts with these different sites, right? So here's the mega menu with all of our different items here you can see designed, or I could have that traditional cascading menu that people use as well. Now, this is just another view of a hub or not a hub, of a landing page or a portal for our Contoso Corporation. You can see here we've kind of styled out the header here as we've wanted to. We've got a series of rich, engaging content down through the page. We've actually gone ahead right here, and you can see to help people interact, we've got our financial statements. In this case, we're actually pulling this right from an embedded PowerPoint that people can interact with. We've got our clock over here so that people know what time it is at headquarters. Maybe we could have different clocks for different regions that we have offices in. And you'll see right here in this particular landing page, we've actually gone ahead and we've got a custom created web part. In this case, the Contoso Electronics stock ticker that someone in the organization has created and brought in. But you'll see that to make these landing pages really engaging, something that people want to come back to time and time again, it's not just about putting out all that great relevant news, but it's also about helping people get started and do the work that they need to do all the time, every day. And so you can see here, I've surfaced up recent sites that I visited. So it becomes this place I can come to the Contoso Landings Hub. I get exposed to the mail and information from the communications teams, but I also get jumping off points to all of the recent sites that I go to often. You can see here all of the recent documents that I've been working on. You can see the personalized news that I have right here. Now, this is one particular way that I might want to lay out my landing page or my portal. This is a different view. Again, still looking at a possible option for how Contoso or any one of you that are listening could lay out your different pages. This particular site, when we designed it, we went with more information density than we were just looking at on the prior page. You'll see here we styled the header a little bit different, but still got the company themes. But you'll see going with that information density, we went with tighter layouts on our content here. You can see here we've brought that frequent news and personalization up a little bit higher into the page. But beyond just some of the other personal items that we were looking at, you can see here that we've actually brought out not just recent docs and news, but the calendar, understanding what you have coming on what days, so that you don't have to jump between lots of different apps and surfaces to find documents, find calendar information, find news. You can see here we're using the power of the Microsoft Graph to actually bring intelligent recommendations of content. So what you're seeing here, these are other people in the organization that have been working on documents. These are documents that, based on the information of who I collaborate with and the different projects I do, and we can figure some of that out intelligently through information like who are you mailing, who are you attending meetings with. So we take and we look at that type of information, the content that's relevant to you, and we try to surface content that you have access to. And the have access to is a key, which means if someone's working on, say, financial documents and information or highly confidential research information that I don't have permission for, even though I work often with that person, or maybe it would be relevant, because I don't have permission, it won't surface here. But if I have permission to that content from people I work with, you can see it surfaces it here, and I can also go in and get additional information. Kind of continuing down the page, not only is it relevant and personal, but we're also bringing out a lot of that company information. Here's the news, the Twitter conversations. So you can see here I've got a rich blend of content that is both personal and relevant to me, that is published from my communications teams, as well as information that is dynamic and relevant to me about things that I'm working on. Now, sometimes inside of organizations, people just want a very high polish to some of their landing pages. They want them to be maybe not a jumping off page, but more of a marketing page. And you can see here, this is a third view of that Contoso portal. Again, slightly different styling at the top here, but you'll notice in this case, we've put this full motion video here right at the top of the page to really engage you with some beautiful imagery as soon as you come in. In this case, Contoso is using this portal and landing page to really catch you and draw you in to tell you about the launch internally of their new Mark IV product. And you can see as I scroll down the page, kind of continuing with that visual style for this particular landing page, you can see I've got some really rich interactive graphics here inside the carousel. So, the imagery at the top hooked me in. Now I want to see the product. And as I move down the page, it can continue to be more interactive. You'll see over here on the left side some links off to our SharePoint spaces, the mixed reality experience with SharePoint that Dan mentioned briefly. If you could be in the room with me, for example, we could put on a virtual reality set of goggles and experience the site in that VR. So very, very immersive. But it's not just about using mixed reality and goggles. Here you can see on the right side, I actually have a 3D model embedded inside of this page that I can interact with. I can look at the product from different sides and different angles. And then after I've got all of that information, all of those graphics to really hook me in and get me going with this product, now you can see we're taking you off to different articles to learn more about it, and then bringing you into some of the general news, events, and additional information here in my life at Contoso. So 3 different views that you could see, but you could really see how with using SharePoint and a lot of the capabilities, I can build landing pages and portal pages for my organization as a whole, different divisions inside of my organization, and I can build them in a lot of different styles based on the business problem and challenge I'm trying to solve. With that, I'll toss it back to you, Dan.
Awesome, thanks, Brad. And I'd like to bring the demos to a close before we start up the Q&A with a quick look at how this looks on mobile. So let's return to the SharePoint mobile app, and actually I'll start where we were before, which was on the News tab of the SharePoint mobile app. You'll notice the middle tab of the SharePoint mobile app is our Find tab. This is one of the best surfaces for getting to what you need to and finding what you need to find in the organization. And you'll notice right on the Find tab are my frequent sites, and I see Contoso landings. So if I go to Contoso landings, this is the first of the 3 landing pages that Brad demonstrated to you. I can see right away that the page renders beautifully on my mobile device. So I can see the news at the top. The carousel is scrolling through that news. I see the events. I see more news that's been pushed to me. There's that countdown web part, the links to important resources. There's that world clock that Brad pointed out, and our custom web part, which is natively mobile. And as I scroll down, I get to my personalized stuff like my documents and my news. So all of the elements that you can create on any SharePoint page are natively mobile. You don't have to do a single thing to make this work beautifully on a mobile device. And users can then access company information, tap into expertise and content, and really connect to the entire digital estate right from the SharePoint mobile application. So hopefully this gives you some ideas of how the intelligent intranet can power teamwork and connect the workplace with pages, sites, lists, libraries, and files, creating employee experiences that allow you to reach a broad audience with a piece of news, or to share knowledge, resources, services, and information across the organization. With that, we're going to open up for Q&A. So Tyler, if you'd like, you can let us know what questions we have.
Yeah, we've got lots of great questions here. Let me find a couple here to start off with. We got a lot of questions around customizations. Being able to customize the HTML, the CSS. A couple of questions are asking around what are the master pages customization options, in the legacy SharePoint publishing. Could you spend a little bit of time on some of the customization?
Yeah, sure. So customization is definitely supported today. We want to make sure that we have both a beautiful out-of-box experience and a set of capabilities that you can really make your own for your organization. And we have some of the largest organizations in the world building highly branded experiences that are winning awards for intranet design. The first place I would send you is that SharePoint lookbook. And again, actually, Brad, if you want to pop that into an answer to a question now, you can do that. It's aka.ms/SharePoint lookbook. That will give you some examples and some inspirations. And on all of these examples, you can actually dive in and experience them and see what web parts were used to put them together. At the very bottom of the page, there's a link to our SharePoint design guidance. We'll also give you this URL as well. And this design guidance has all the details about our design principles, how you can create beautiful sites, including branding, custom themes, custom navigation, great web parts. And so you'll be able to go in and get all of that information that you need to take to your designers. Now, I will say that it's done very differently than in the past. In the past, we had concepts like master pages, which were a concept built on .NET frameworks that date back to the late 90s and early 2000s that simply aren't the right architecture for today's mobile-first cloud-connected world. So we have a new set of capabilities that are all based on open web standards, toolkits, and frameworks. So any web developer with very, very little additional work can create beautiful experiences on SharePoint. You no longer have to be a PhD in SharePoint to do it. So the biggest difference is that it's much easier to do by a much broader set of web technologists than in the past. But you still can create highly branded experiences. Now, there are a few places that we will give you Rails because we do need to make sure that whatever you design works perfectly across all devices and is accessible. And so we have engines in there to make sure that, for example, when you choose a theme color, you have a limited set of contrast colors to make sure that those are accessible. So we will guide you in ensuring that not only does your site meet your design standards, but that it meets accessibility and accessibility from both a human perspective and a device perspective.
Oh, great. That's great info. What about the ability for site administrators to set up page templates for their content authors? You know,
Yeah, that's a great question. Let's take another one real quick, and I'm going to stop sharing and see if I can show you a demo of that.
Brilliant.
That question. So let's put that one just to the side for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing while I pull up an internal site and see if I can share that with you.
Great. So we got another question around engagement. People wanting to know, how can they stay engaged when those are looking at their news post, or they've liked their news post or shared their news post? Is there something, an email or even a flow trigger? When somebody comments on a news post, authors can stay engaged with those reading their news posts.
Yes, absolutely. When someone comments on a post that you have written, you will get a notification. In addition, you'll get a notification if you happen to be mentioned in a comment. So you will sort of get those sort of automatic notifications, let's call them, through those mechanisms. In addition, you as an author can go to the page at any time and see the number of comments and likes and views. And then at the site level, we also have analytics that allow you to go in and look at what are the most popular articles over a period of time within a site. So you can look at them at either the page level or the site level.
Okay, great. Had a couple of questions around organization level news. They were wanting to be able to open up the ability to contribute news posts by anybody in the organization.
Yep.
Any thoughts on that? Like sort of an open blog or an open portal? I don't really know what the term would be, but
sure.
A place where anybody can contribute, and some thoughts on managing that and governing that.
Sure, absolutely. So the ability to create a new news post, which again you can do from the site, from SharePoint Home, even from your mobile app, is totally based on your rights as a user on the site. So as long as you have given people, as long as someone is a member of the site, and I can look at the permissions here and show you an example. So we see site owners and site members. If you are either a member or an owner of the site, you will have the ability to create news. So for example, if I wanted, let's say, Miriam to be able to contribute news to this, I could select her and make her a member. If I wanted the entire organization to do that, I could add everyone except external users, perhaps, if I can spell correctly. I could add that group. It'll take a second to pull that one up because I've used it before. And I could make that give that edit permission as well. So whoever has permission on the site has the ability to create news. Now, there's an additional capability that I didn't show you because it wasn't wired up in this particular demo, but I will go in and give you a quick peek at it. And that is, if we go into site pages, as an owner of a site, and I know we do have some technical folks in the audience, so I'll give you actually a couple of tips here. As an owner of the site, you can go into the site pages library, which is where all pages and news go. And you can create those page properties that we were talking about. So here's the library where, for example, we saw there was a property that specified whether an article was featured or not. And those are simply SharePoint columns. So any SharePoint column I want, I could use as a piece of metadata to then later target that article to the right place. This is also where we see audience. And then finally, I've got the ability to configure page approval flow. And just with a couple of clicks, I can turn on page approvals for this site. And at that point, then not only everyone who I've given permission to can create news, but then approvers have the ability to actually approve news for publishing. So there's a little bit of a gate there that gives you the ability to let everyone contribute with minimal friction, but then also to maintain a modicum of control over what actually is approved. So that's the answer to that one. And then there was another great question about templates. And this is another one that we just didn't quite have wired up to the demo that I was showing you, but it's rolling out very soon, like literally in the next couple of weeks. And I can show it to you here. If I go to create a new news post in this site, you'll notice I get, instead of a blank page, I actually get a gallery. And I can choose a blank page, a highly visual page that has some beautiful web parts already in place, or I can choose a basic text page, which has an image and some text. And whichever template I pick, that is the basis for my news article. And so I've got some placeholders that I can then fill in the blanks and say, healthcare 2025. And again, I can modify my web parts. We've got some additional web parts that are shipping that you're seeing here. And if there's a web part I don't want, like let's say I don't even want this image, I can just simply delete it. So I've got a template that allows me to create some consistency across articles. It also lets me accelerate productivity of authors. And last but not least, once this article is published, let me go ahead and save it so we can see this here. I can actually create my own templates and save it as a template.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah. So once this page is published, I actually have to publish it, and I'm not going to on this site because I don't own the site. But once I publish this news, I would actually be able to go and save this as my own template, as a template for other people to use. So not only do templates exist, but you've got the ability to create your own templates on top of the 3 out-of-box templates that we will be shipping.
Awesome. We got a good question around several folks asking, when do we use SharePoint page comments and when do I use Yammer?
That's a great
question. Yeah,
that's a great question as well, for sure. So let's actually pull up one of the, let's pull up something that we've got something to visually look at while we answer this question. So there are several ways to engage with comments or discussion, let's call it, broadly speaking. One is the out-of-box comment feature, which which was being asked about. So at the bottom of the page, we've got comments. And by the way, if I'm an editor or the author of the page, I have the ability to turn off those comments. They're on by default, but I can just turn them off, and they will no longer be visible there. So this inline, this native page commenting is there because we know that not all customers have rolled out Yammer yet, and we wanted to give the ability to engage and interact with content. If you'd rather use a Yammer conversation, you can simply turn off turn off comments, and then add the Yammer web part. So I could add Yammer conversations, and then I have the ability to pull in conversations based on a topic, a group, or an individual user. So I could add the conversations web part that way. Now, what we do not yet have natively in the box is the ability to have a conversation just about this page. That's something that we're looking at currently as far as one of the Yammer choices. And we should have some more information about that later on this year. We definitely understand it's something that many of our customers want. But you can bring in a conversation from a group, a user, or a topic. And so if you created a topic for this page, you would be able to filter on that. The Yammer conversations, I would say, are much more useful out of the box today at the sort of broad page level. When you're creating a page about a topic or a site about a topic, rather than just an article, is generally where I would put the Yammer web parts today. So I would save the Yammer web parts for the higher level sites and portals, sort of the site homepage, the Contoso landings that you saw a little bit earlier, or the exec site that we showed. Let me pull that one up to check in on that visually. So at the exec site where we had a whole site about engaging with leaders and we were pulling in the Yammer conversation, that is for sure where I would encourage you to use Yammer rather than page comments today. For news, often I would say you're probably going to want to use page comments today. But we understand that you might want to use Yammer. We're giving you some capabilities to use Yammer on a news article, and there will be more soon.
Great, thank you. I got a couple of users are asking about page translation and the variations feature that was in classic SharePoint. Is there going to be any multilingual capabilities coming in the roadmap?
Yes, great question. So for that, I'm going to pull up this slide here. Which you might remember I was sort of talking about the variety of innovations we've released for SharePoint over the last couple of years. Our goal is to make sure that you can do everything in modern SharePoint that you could do in classic SharePoint. And we have gotten almost all the way there. There are really two things that our customers call out that they really would like modern SharePoint to do that we haven't gotten to yet, but that we are in our sites. One of which is page scheduling. So to be able to schedule a page to publish at a certain time, you can actually do that with Microsoft Flow. You could create it yourself today, but it's not like right out of the box like Approvals is. The other thing is multilingual. So for multilingual, we will be sharing our vision at Ignite this year of our out-of-box view and roadmap for multilingual. It is definitely something we plan on tackling. Until then, there are a couple of options that we encourage customers to consider. One is you could continue to use classic pages for sites that require multilingual. The second would be to use the browser translation that's available in all modern browsers today, where you can translate a page. But of course, that's sending the page to a service connected to the browser and bringing the page back with machine translation, which may or may not always be right for you. The third option is to look at the approach used by one of our customers, Shire and now Takeda Pharmaceutical. In fact, hopefully there's some folks from Takeda online. They have architected a really sophisticated and wonderful multilingual system. And it might be that if we connect some customers with them, they might be willing to give them a little bit of insight into how they approached it. And then the final option is to wait just 2 more months until the SharePoint conference, at which point you will know our vision for multilingual. So stay in classic, use browser. We can connect you with an existing customer, or you can wait for the SharePoint conference in 2 months, and we will share our roadmap for multilingual, which is really that last mile for us to get customers empowered on modern to the same extent and beyond that they were on classic.
Great, thank you. We had several users also asking about where is SharePoint News? What kind of site do I need to have in order to leverage SharePoint News?
Yeah, great question. Every modern site has news. So no matter what site you're on, you will find news. And to give you a little bit of deeper background to what's actually going on behind the scenes, let's actually go to this site. So, we created a site called News, but that was just to make the demonstration a little bit clearer. Every site has news. News is simply a page, and every site has pages. So news is pages with superpowers. So when you create news, you're just taking a page and saying, put it into our distribution system as news. And you can see that especially clearly if you create a page, and I'll just do one real quickly here. I'm not even going to put much content into it, just a title, and I'll publish. So I just created a page. Once that page is created, I have the ability to post it as news, which basically says, take this page and turn it into news. So that would have been just the same as if I had chosen new news to start with. So every page can become news. Every site has news. Who can create news is based on who can create pages in the site. And then who sees the news is based on, first, who has access to it. If you don't have permission, you will never see the news. Second, how relevant it is to them. And third, how you are filtering that page with those page details and using audience targeting in your news experiences to get the right news to the right people at the right time.
Great, thank you. Several people are also asking about extranet capabilities. How do I share content with people outside of my organization? Is this something that we can do?
So extranet can be is supported on SharePoint. You can add people to any SharePoint site. So I can take this site and I can actually start sharing it with anyone. So I can even share it with Daniel Holme at gmail.com, for example. And as long as my organization allows external sharing, I can share a site with external people. We do not have the ability to share individual pages with people. There's too much underlying common infrastructure for how sites render. But you can share, you can bring people into a site. So SharePoint sites are marvelous for extranets because they do allow you to connect people both inside and outside the organization with web-based technologies that pretty much anyone can use. Everyone knows how to go to a website, bookmark it, favorite it, and reshare it by copying and pasting the URL.
Awesome. And one more here. We've got a lot of folks seemed excited about the microsite. Is that a new template?
No, the microsite is simply the name we give the scenario of creating a site for a specific use case. All it is creating, you can create a site from the SharePoint home. You can then pick from what we call a site design. You might think of it as a template. We have 3 out of the box. A topic, which is the one we've been showing you. You can see a little thumbnail of it. A showcase is really used to showcase a couple of major concepts, thoughts, or products. Or you can start with blank and build up. And you as an organization can create your own templates or site designs as well. So this particular tenant has a sales event template that it's created that people can use to create sites for sales events. But it's just a SharePoint site with that is being used for a specific topic, such as an event.
Okay, great. One more question that a couple of people were asking about. Can you make the root site collection a hub site?
Great question, and there's a couple parts to that answer. First of all, to make sure that everyone's clear on what that is, the root site is what you get when you go to yourcompany.sharepoint.com. And so for many, many years, this was a classic team site, I believe was the template. We are in the process of rolling out a feature that will enable communication site capabilities at the hub, at the root, and that will be rolled out in April. So it's coming very, very soon. Today, if you start a new tenant, including just a new test or demo tenant, you will see that the root is in fact a communication site. And then from there, you will be able to designate it as a hub. So any site can be a hub: classic, modern, team, communication site, publishing, anything can be a hub. An administrator can designate a site as a hub. So you could designate the root as a hub today, but I think what most people are really thinking about when they ask that question is they want a modern hub site, such as the work site we were looking at earlier. So next month, we ship the feature to enable communication site capabilities at the hub. You can then build your beautiful hub site, your beautiful site, and you can make it a hub.
All right, well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see here if I got any more questions. I want to make sure I got, let's see here, scrolling through here. Yeah, I think we're good on the questions. So with that, I can wrap it up.
Wonderful. Thank you for including us, Michael and Tyler, and I hope all of you have found this valuable. Please don't hesitate to stay in touch with us and enjoy the rest of Healthcare and Life Sciences Week.
Thank you. All right, so for everybody that's out there listening, I want to thank you all for joining. We really appreciate Brad and Dan from the product groups coming in here and sharing this information with us. So thank you very much. Got a couple of next steps here. Just a reminder to follow the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences blog at aka.ms/HLS blog. We're going to be posting this recording up there shortly later today. We should have it up there. If you want to know more about SharePoint and getting a customized deep dive for your organization, reach out to your Microsoft account team. Mike and I work with several customers out there, and we always love engaging via the account team. If you want to connect with today's hosted speakers, you can find them out on LinkedIn. And be sure to join us again for tomorrow's session, SharePoint plus Teams Better Together. I believe Mark Cashman is presenting in that one. And so for that, I thank you all. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great afternoon.